Good evening, folks. This is Chris Sofield with bucksPAC.com. Thank you very much, folks, for joining us tonight. This is Chris Sofield with bucksPAC.com.
Hey, Chris. It's Cadwell.
Hello, Eddie. Thank you for joining us tonight.
Glad to be here.
Hello, this is Sue Pindar. Hello.
Good evening. I'm sorry, I did not catch your name.
Susan Pindar.
Oh, Susan. Hello. Thank you for joining us tonight.
Mm-hmm.
It's 7:01. We shall wait 1 or 2 more minutes for a few more people to join us. And hopefully we'll have a nice-sized crowd tonight. There's always something to talk about when it comes to the political world. And bucksPAC.com tries to keep you abreast of all the news, the schedules, and also who we support for upcoming elections. So please feel free to always join us on Monday night on our conference calls. We always ask that when you are speaking to announce yourself that you are speaking, ask your question, make your comment, and when you're finished, please just say over, and then the other people will know it'll be a good time to speak up. So thank you, everybody, for joining us tonight on bucksPAC.com, our Monday night conference call. It's an opportunity for us to discuss what is happening in the political world nationally, but specifically here in Pennsylvania, specifically here in the Congressional 1st District, which covers all of Bucks County and a section of Montgomery County. So, of course, we welcome our friends in Montgomery County also. Thank you very much for joining us. The call will be starting in 1 or 2 more minutes. But thank you very much, everybody, for joining us on bucksPAC.com's Monday night conference call. This is Chris Sofield with bucksPAC.com. Thank you, everybody, for joining us tonight on our Monday night conference call. These calls are provided as a service for people to have an opportunity to find out what is going on in the 1st Congressional District here in Bucks County and Montgomery County, what's going on in Pennsylvania, because that affects us here in Bucks County and Montgomery County. And obviously we'll have a lot of stuff to speak about nationally concerning another political action committee. bucksPAC.com is not the only political action committee out there. The American Conservative Union, which is a political action committee, and they are the folks that pulled CPAC, normally held in Washington, D.C., and that has been moved to Orlando, Florida, because they would actually open up their facilities so people can attend. So that would be one of our things we'll be discussing tonight on bucksPAC.com tonight. The going on in Orlando, Florida with CPAC. And with that, it's 5 minutes after 7, so Chris Sofield's going to open us up with a little statement concerning a couple items, and then we will have we have a guest on tonight, John Carver, and I'll introduce him to tell us his story, and then we'll open it up to everybody else, all my friends on here. So we really appreciate that. This is a new month. It's March 1st on the calendar, and we are in the middle of the petition sign-in period for the races that are going on for the primary here in Pennsylvania. We do have people that need to collect signatures so they can be on the ballot. We have various events that are coming up to collect those signatures. Thank you for joining us. And we also, encourage everybody to help these grassroots efforts as they attempt to get onto the ballots, to be elected, whether it's for the school board, which is very important, especially this year. Of all years, the school board candidates are probably the most important candidates, but we also have other races, district judges, and half of the row offices in Bucks County and Doylestown. And I'm sure in Norristown, probably half of their offices are also up for election in Montgomery County. So we would encourage you to do that. One event that I'm aware of that will be happening is Andy Meehan has a few candidates that he is encouraging, and for people to head over to Johnny Apple's on Wednesday night to sign some ballots or sign some petitions to get people onto the ballots. So I encourage you to do that if you've not signed any petitions to get good grassroots conservative candidates to run for office. They need your support. So I thank you very much for everybody being able to do that. We also, on bucksPAC.com, various updates are available on there, and we will discuss some of them after our guest speaker speaks concerning what our Congress member has been up to here in PA's 1st Congressional District. And we will also have a call of action for things to be done in Pennsylvania concerning our congressional delegation and our senatorial delegation. We just thank everybody for joining us tonight on this call. And just one thing I wanted to mention about CPAC that President Trump spoke last night on, and I am looking for my notes. There we go. But Trump's speech, the thing that I loved about his speech was the fact that there will be no new party. And that goes with the philosophy we have here at bucksPAC. The Republican Party needs to be cleaned up from the inside. President Trump realizes that, and the fact that he is going to be working very hard for the 2022 elections and the 2024 elections through the Republican Party is the way to go. We realize from history that Teddy Roosevelt fractured the Republican Party in 1912, and that allowed Woodrow Wilson to become president. And it's a race to the bottom, whether Woodrow Wilson, FDR, or LBJ. Thank you, Carl. Or some of our more recent presidents are the worst presidents, but I'm going to go with Woodrow Wilson because there's a lot of things that he caused that allowed the progressive movement to get a foothold and have not let up. So with Trump's speech last night and the fact that he would say that there would be no new party, work through the Republican Party, and let's make that work. That ties together my opening comment with helping out the grassroots here, locally here in Bucks County and Montgomery County, to get good conservatives on the ballots so we truly have a choice. So we do thank that. And I do thank everybody for attending tonight. We have another nice crowd of people, so thank you very much for joining us. And with that, it's 11 minutes after 7, and I'm going to introduce our guest tonight. And John Carver has been on a few of our calls, and we appreciate him joining us on those calls, being very supportive of us, and wanted to give him his opportunity to speak about, as I like to call it, tell us your story. And he will have a chance to talk about why he's a Republican, being a conservative, and any issues that he feels strongly about. That we have time to discuss that, and then we'll open it up to the floor for any questions for John Carver. John Carver is a resident of Wrightstown here in Bucks County, obviously, and thank you, John, for joining us tonight. The microphone is yours.
Thank you. The story I have, personal story, goes back to 2012. And President Obama won Newport News, Virginia, and Newport News is a huge military establishment and generally very conservative. So I was somewhat mystified about this. Questioned basically voter security, and I had a electrical engineer that did work for us. His name was Eric Bond, a Canadian, and he's brilliant. And I went to Eric and I said, Eric, these electronic voting machines, how secure are they? And his answer, frankly, shocked me. He said, John, that is nothing more than a Las Vegas slot machine. You can make that do anything you want it to do. And that shocked me. I knew it was bad, but I didn't think it was that bad. I called the Heritage Foundation and asked for their, election security person or election integrity person, and they gave me someone. And I told him the story, and he totally blew me off. That was the last time I supported Heritage Foundation. But I found that rather interesting, and I'm sure that you could go back even further than 2012, where they could easily manipulate this equipment. So the security of any electronic voting machine is very, very suspect. In fact, it's probably impossible at this point. The only other thing I mentioned is that the new equality. Yeah, the new equality bill that just passed concerning the LGBTQ+ community. There were 3 Republicans that voted for it, 3 Republican congressmen, and you guessed it, one of them was yours truly, Fitzpatrick. Not surprised. That's not a good bill. So with that, thank you very much. I will say this: the one area that I'm very concerned about is the Middle East, and Biden has taken us backwards so fast and destabilizing things so quickly. It is absolutely alarming. We are basically, he said he would not support he is cutting off involvement in Yemen. Well, we're not involved in Yemen. The Saudis are, and we're supporting them, but he's cutting that off. He is stopping the sale of the Raytheon precision-guided bombs to the Saudis. And we just saw the Khashoggi trial come back up in the news. And couple that with the fact that it took 2 weeks for Biden to even call our strongest ally in the Middle East, and that is Israel, Netanyahu. And the third thing I want to mention is oil. Oil was $39 a barrel at election time. It has risen continually since then, and it is now $60 a barrel. That's a 50% increase in a barrel of oil. Now, 2 of our major enemies derive their revenue from oil. One is Russia. Oil exports is their main revenue source, is one of their main revenue sources. And of course, Iran. Iran, that is their revenue source. And we just, through the actions of Biden, we have just, in the XL pipeline, we have now just fed them a whole bunch of money, which is not a good thing. So I'm very concerned about the direction that Biden is taking us in that area. And I would suspect that when we get to May, that we will not pull the troops out of Afghanistan. And frankly, that's bad, because you cannot wage war continuously. And that's it. Thank you.
John, I appreciate that very much. And those are three very, very huge points you brought up. And it is truly an amazing path that we've taken in less than 2 months. And the results of what has already happened in less than 2 months. So, John, I understand your concerns, and we'll expand upon them a little bit further. John, just a couple things. How long have you lived in Bucks County?
My entire life. Well, except for when, I was born in Philadelphia, moved here when I was 5, and outside of Langhorne. And then, through high school, graduated from the Chamonix, had an appointment to West Point, graduated from there, and of course, from the time I graduated high school, for the next 10 years, I was all over the world. And then after that, I moved back to Bucks County and lived here ever since. Beautiful place.
Fantastic. Oh, yeah. John, that reminds me of a story, and I think everybody will enjoy this a little bit. My parents moved. My mother moved here from Port Richmond, and my father moved here from Newark, New Jersey, and met in the middle, I guess, and bought a house in Levittown. But the funny story is my grandparents, Polish couple with 2 daughters, living in Port Richmond in the 1930s, 1940s, and in the late 1940s, they made a decision that they would move out of Philadelphia, and they were going to move up to Bucks County, up to Feasterville. And all the women in Port Richmond said, Benjamin, you cannot take your daughters up to Bucks County, up to Feasterville. You'll never marry them off when you move up there, up to the prairie of Bucks County, and get them married off. But both daughters managed to get married off. They both had wonderful husbands. And both those husbands and both those couples bought houses in Levittown. When Levittown was all built, both of them were original settlers in Levittown. And I grew up in a house that had an original settler of Levittown. So that's part of my story. But I always have loved the Feasterville was a prairie that you would never marry off your daughters.
Yeah.
It's a little bit different now. So you have been, like you said, born in Philadelphia, raised in Bucks County, served some time in the Navy, I take it, and saw the world.
Army.
In the Army, okay. And you came back to Bucks County and raised your family, and Bucks County is the conservative county that you wish it to stay. Sure of that. So I do appreciate you joining us tonight with your, tell us your story. And I would take it that you were raised by conservative parents and.
No, actually, my father was a Philadelphia fireman, and he was a Democrat.
Yeah.
But that did not influence me.
Right, but that would be back in the days when you could be a Democrat and a conservative. Democratic Party left those people behind, and those are the people that we need to encourage when we knock on doors and say, has your Democratic Party left you behind? Are you more pro-life than your Democratic Party? Are you more conservative than the direction that the Democratic Party is going in? And those are just things we need to speak to people when we're doing our grassroots efforts to encourage the Republican Party to get bigger, because that's what we need to do. And we're on the right side of history when it comes to all this. So we do need to continue the battle, and the fight continues. John, did you get a chance to see President Trump's speech last night?
Yes, I did.
Okay.
I did. I thought it was excellent. I thought he made many great points. And it was most interesting listening to, I turn on CNN and MSNBC just to hear what they have to say.
Yeah.
And it was most interesting listening to their comments. It was as if they were in another world. I don't even know where they find these people, to be honest with you, but it's amazing. And,
yes,
and as far as our Republican Party, frankly, we have to begin to hold our elected officials accountable. Because there's no sense in having a Republican in there if he's not going to hold up our standards. And in Pennsylvania, we've had a number of them.
That is so correct. One of the things that President Trump said last night that we need Republicans that have guts. Right now we have a lot of courts that have no guts. We have a lot of GOP Republicans with no guts, and it was great because he flat out called them rhinos. He flat out named names to the rhino senators who voted for impeachment, and he even called out the Congress people who voted for impeachment. So President Trump was on fire last night. Speech was definitely over an hour long, and it always seems like he does it without notes, but he does such a wonderful job. Unlike the speech or the town hall that Joe Biden held a few days earlier, where he was completely lost. He was completely being helped by Anderson Cooper to get him back on track. It is a sorry state where we're at, where the person who should be president is President Trump, and Joe Biden really should be retired. And really, it's a shame to watch him as he suffers into dementia, and it is just a horrible thing. President Trump, just was on fire, and we'll see what happens in 2024. He left it open, and it was encouraging to hear him speak about 2022 and 2024. So I'm going to. Yes, John.
An issue that concerns me greatly, and that is who is running this country. It is not Biden. Biden can't put a sentence together. In fact, if he's not looking at the teleprompter, he can't put 5 words together. The man doesn't have it. And who is making these decisions? Because he certainly isn't, because he's not capable. So that concerns me.
So, John, you are 100% correct on that, and that kind of leads us into a couple points you mentioned about the the L, B, G, Q, T, all the other letters of the alphabet group, and that's not a bill that a Catholic would push. And like you say, Joe Biden is not doing his policies, his agenda. This is a group of bureaucrats, a group of socialists that have taken over the agenda and that is what they're pushing. And that is where we do have a good opportunity to snag some of these Democrats who are upset with the direction they're going. Our congressperson here in Bucks County, Brian, did vote for that act. Hopefully it will go through a constitutional battle, and hopefully the Supreme Court will take a look at it and realize that most of it is unconstitutional, but as we have seen lately, that Supreme Court is not one to be trusted. The other issue, John, that you brought up was concerning the price of fuel. I'm a traveling salesperson. I'm on the road every day. I fuel up my car 2-3 times a week, and just within the last week to 10 days, fuel has gone from $2.65 to $2.83 to $2.99 is the last one I've fueled up, and I'll be fueling up again tomorrow. So I'm sure it's probably broken $3 a gallon, and that is by design and plan of the Democratic Party. As you said, the Keystone Pipeline was shut down. That affects the spot market. That affects supply and demand.
You there? Hello.
Hello?
Yeah, I'm here. Are you there? I think we lost Chris.
Yeah, I think Chris dropped out.
He'll be back on.
John, while we're waiting for Chris to come back, this is Gail Thibodeau. And I just wanted to talk about what you mentioned about the voting machines way back when Obama won in that Newport News section of Virginia, which is normally a conservative area. Yes. I didn't know that. I mean, I kind of guessed that there were issues, but I didn't, realize it back then. But President Trump's speech was awesome yesterday at CPAC. I was so glad that so many of the panels were talking about election integrity because, honestly, it doesn't matter who we put up. We can put up some fine candidates. If we can't trust that the election is going to be honest, what does it matter?
Okay.
If they can manipulate the totals. Hi, Chris.
Okay. This is Chris Sophie. I got cut off somehow, so I appreciate somebody filling in. So I'll let the person who was speaking when I just got back on, but yeah, unfortunately I just got cut off. Had to dial back in. So
we noticed you were gone and you weren't answering.
Yeah, I'm not sure what happened there.
Yeah. So no, I was just talking about how at CPAC I was glad that so many of those panels they had were talking about election integrity and how important is that. I mean, I heard the Supreme Court again turn down Sidney Powell's lawsuits, won't even look at them. Was it for 2 other states, not Pennsylvania this time, it was 2 other states of the swing states where there was definitely corruption on or about November 3rd. So if we can't have a system that we can guarantee one legal person.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Yeah, the Supreme Court vote, as I understand it, on the Pennsylvania, the suit involving Pennsylvania in the legislature, I understand Clarence Thomas and 2 other justices voted to hear the case, and Roberts voted not to hear the case. And who was the other conservative judge? Does anybody know who the other conservative judge was that voted?
That would be Amy Barrett.
Amy Barrett?
Yeah.
No.
Amy Barrett and Gorsuch, Alito, and or to hear it.
He voted about the election integrity.
Yeah.
Gorsuch, Alito, and Thomas.
They voted on the correct side. they wanted to hear it, yes. They were the only 3 that wanted to hear it, and they needed 4. And I think Gail did get cut off, but hopefully
I
she's
did,
back
but I'm back.
Okay. So we're having some interesting things, and it's probably big tech or somebody like that who's probably who's ever speaking gets cut off. Yeah, this is very interesting. So I guess the point is, President Trump did bring up about election integrity. I love that part of the speech last night, and he did. He said, voting should be one day only. It should be absentee-only ballots, no mail-in. Voter ID, universal signature, and chain of custody. President Trump understands the problem. He has spelled it out so correctly, and it's amazing that we can't have more Republicans spell it out as easily as that. We have all our state representatives who want to talk, but it's a very easy process. So hopefully some more people will see that about election integrity and will take up that battle, because we do need to clean that up. And it's simple as that. Our Congressman, Brian Fitzpatrick, put out a statement today that he will not be voting for H.R. 1, which is as he states, the purely partisan bill on the floor. So at that time, he is, as he says, it is to restore faith and confidence in elections, and that he will not vote for H.R. 1. Brian Fitzpatrick says we need photo voter ID laws in each state, signature match requirements, election day ballot receipt deadlines, none of that until Friday thing, and complete transparency requirements and other reforms that I had introduced in January. That's what Brian Fitzpatrick said. What we need to do, the vote for H.R. 1 will happen on Wednesday or Thursday. We need to call Brian Fitzpatrick's office and tell him for him to work with some of his problem solvers and no labels people that he works with as the other Congress people, and get him to get some of the Democrats to vote against H.R. 1. He always talks about how we need to be bipartisan, and he's the one that always goes over to the Democrats. We need Brian Fitzpatrick to finally call in the chips and say, Brian, it's time for you to call in those Democrats and tell them not to vote for H.R. 1. Because the point is, Democrats have the majority of the House of Representatives, and they are going to be able to pass H.R. 1 and move it on to the Senate. So we need to get Brian to actually start calling some of his chips. He's worked for 4 years, building up his no labels and problem solvers caucus, and now it's time. Because if H.R. 1 goes through, it will require the government to pay for political campaigns. It will centralize the election administration into Washington, D.C. as a federal. And that is not the way our Constitution is written. The states are supposed to handle elections, and they didn't do a good job recently, but we need to do a better job on that. And it would allow ballot harvesting. Simple as that, and that is something that the Democrats have been doing in California, and that is why California is a state where you have elections put together where a Democrat runs against a Democrat. There are no Republicans in so many of the November elections. So that is something we need to call Brian Fitzpatrick before Wednesday to let him know. Not only does he vote no on H.R. 1, but he has to finally get some payback from all the votes that he's voted with the Democrats. The Democrats now need to start voting with the Republicans. They call themselves bipartisan. They call themselves no labels. It is time for them to start voting towards the Republicans and not just the Republicans voting with the Democrats. So that is a big call to action for this week. So we definitely want to make sure we do that. I'm sure everybody has Brian Fitzpatrick's various office phone numbers, and please call them. At least they answer. Pat Toomey's office tends not to answer phone calls. So hopefully H.R. 1 will never even get to the Senate, so we don't have to call our rhino, as President Trump calls him, Pat Toomey, and we can just save making phone calls to him. So that's probably one of the biggest call to actions that we have. Brian has already voted with the Equality Act, and hopefully that will go down to the Supreme Court and get thrown out, but we'll see what happens with that. With that, I'm going to open up the floor to any other comments. I do want to thank John Carver for being our guest tonight. If anybody wants to grill John on any questions, I'm sure he'd be able to answer them also. So when you do speak up in this little segment, make sure you introduce yourself by your name and state your comment or question and who it's directed to, and then say over. So I'll open up the floor at this time, and I am still on the call. I did not get dropped off this time.
Hey, Chris, it's Eddie Chadrow.
Thank you, Eddie, for joining us. Yes.
One thing President Trump did mention at the CPAC speech was that he would be seeking out and endorsing real Republican candidates.
Yeah.
And I think whoever we get here in Bucks to represent us, we really need to see if we can get, President Trump's endorsement for them. Because as you know, the local Republican committee, they endorse their own who they want to see. And if we could override it with Trump's endorsement, that would go a long way.
Yes, it would.
Over.
Yes, it would, Eddie. I agree with you 100%. That is a battle for who's ever looking to run for the congressional seat next year, and it is only just next year. They do need to start reaching out to President Trump. Yeah, I mean, he's the ex-president. He does have handlers, though, and those people have to go through there. The one point would be that when President Trump was in the White House, there were a lot more gatekeepers around him that made it impossible to actually reach out there, because they were all afraid of losing an R. And we know who that R is. He's the R in the word rhino, and that would be Brian Fitzpatrick when it comes to, yes, he's got an R behind his name, but he hardly votes Republican. And
yep.
Now that we've lost some of the gatekeepers that shielded President Trump, this would be the opportunity for a person who wants to run for that congressional seat to really reach out and make that happen. When we ran the last two congressional races, and Jimmy Clendenin would know this because for the Dean Malik campaign, we started that campaign in December of the year before. So that would have been 2017 is when we started that race. And with Andy Meehan's race, we actually kicked that campaign off July 4th, a year before. And we were actually meeting around February or March. We started meeting. We had a few political consultants come through and say that we should wait to Labor Day before we'd even think about opening up the campaign. But we kicked it off on July 4th of 2019 for a 2020 election. And that might not even have been enough time. So hopefully by this summer we'll find some good candidates who want to run for the congressional seat. we need Brian Fitzpatrick to put out a statement on whether he would be running in 2022 because he has stated before that he would term limit himself, and just like his brother Mike did. So we need to find out whether that seat is going to be an open seat, and then nobody can complain, whether in Doylestown or in one of these many political action committees who insist that, well, Brian's got an R after his name and we just have to go with him. It's time to term limit Brian Fitzpatrick because he's the one that brought it up. I'll open up the floor to any other comments.
Chris, I have a question. How do we, and this might be open for discussion, how do we go about making changes in the Republican committee in Doylestown?
John, thank you for that question. I am not an insider. I don't know all the procedural steps that need to be taken with that, but I do know that we do have some people who are committee people on this call, but we've also had them join us over the years. And, they are, by getting a position as a committee person, committee man, committee woman, and doing it that way is the slow but correct steps to do. So it really is up to people stepping up. There's so many of these committee member positions that are not filled, and that is part of the problem. By not having them filled, they almost count as a vote towards Pat Poprick continue in her position, and hopefully we get them filled with people that wish to have conservative values and not just people that think that this is a purple county. Because as I say every week, this is not a purple county. This is a conservative county. Over.
Hi, Chris.
Very okay. Yes, Fran.
This is Fran Haller.
Yes.
I called Brian Fitzpatrick's office this week, and yes. I said I had two questions, and one was that he had said he would term limit himself. I said, is he going to keep his word? And the young man who answered, well, he could have been old, said, well, he hasn't said anything yet. And I just kept pressing. I said, so he's not going to keep his word. And so anyway, he said he hasn't decided. The second thing was about the Equality Act. And I figured, that just really irritated me because my daughter got a scholarship to play women's lacrosse when she went to college. And so I said, what's he got against women? He's a misogynist. I mean, and I said, my daughter got a scholarship to play women's lacrosse at a D1 school. I said, but if that Equality Act was, when she got recruited, they would have passed her up.
Yes.
Yeah. So anyway, I did ask to have a response because Brian Fitzpatrick never, ever responds. If you email him, you never get a letter. You call, you don't get anything. So I gave my name and address and said, I want a response. So we'll see. Over.
Thank you, Fran, and please keep us posted if you get a response, because that would be one of the first ones. So,
yeah.
So thank you very much for that commentary on our congressional Republican. And we'll call him a Republican. He's still registered as a Republican. He doesn't vote that way too often, but he has an R after his name, and that kind of helps him. So one of the other things I wanted to bring up concerning. I'll take that right from there, and that was the President Trump's speech yesterday at CPAC. One of the things he said was, the rhinos will destroy our republic and the workers. So We need to actively work to elect strong, tough Republican leaders loyal to the voters, not to the establishment. And we need great deals. We need education. That was a real winner yesterday for President Trump, talking about education and getting the kids back into school. I thought that was very important, and that is a big issue for this year's elections, that the Republicans are looking to get the schools back open and the teachers' unions not to be so controlled by the union bosses, and the teachers to be concerned about the children again, because we have a big problem here in the United States. A couple things that President Trump finished up with is we could just give up, but we have to have victory, and that's what we need to do. And our brightest days are ahead. President Trump did it was a wonderful speech. I just enjoyed it very much. And if you have not seen it, my feeling is everybody on this phone call has seen this or heard this speech. So, but if you did not get a chance to see it, it's easily pulled up on Rumble or on YouTube, and watch it and enjoy it, because he was on fire. So the point he was making is so easily translated to a candidate in any office. President Trump has figured out how to keep the message right to the point that helps the American workers, helps the families of America, and that is the majority of America. We just need to convince people that Republicans are not the evil people that the media says we are. And that's truly stuff we need to clean up. Anybody else would like to expand upon that, or take our direct conversation in a different direction? Over.
Chris Eddie Chadro again. One thing I was watching, I guess before President Trump came on, they were doing a little history of CPAC, and they showed, like, in different parts of the world. I never knew CPAC was also in Japan, in South Korea, and you know what? And these guys in Hong Kong waving American flags, standing up against the CCP. If they can do it, we certainly can do it here. And we got to keep that momentum going, and just don't let the doomers get us down. We got to keep pressing on with this. Over.
Eddie, you were so correct, and yes, I did watch the opening because I had read somewhere that President Trump would speak at 3:40 in the afternoon. I don't think he got started until after 5 o'clock.
Yeah.
But so I got to watch those films that CPAC had put together, and like you said, they reached out to Korea, to Australia, and other points to get a conservative political action going. But the key one that really did catch my eye was that group in Hong Kong. And that group in Hong Kong 2 years ago really was getting strong and making the point that we cannot allow the conservatives, the people who want freedom in Hong Kong. What was happening was that the CCP, the Chinese Communist Party, would arrest somebody in Hong Kong, and they would take them to the mainland, and then they would never see those people again. They would be in courts on the mainland in communist China, and they would not have a day in court in Hong Kong, which is somewhat free. Over the last 2 years, they were getting stronger. The voice was being heard, and lo and behold, and this is conspiracy theory, Chris, lo and behold, the Chinese virus all of a sudden breaks out, and everything gets shut down. And their protests got shut down right at that same time. So it definitely is something to be concerned about, because if they get all shut down and their freedoms in Hong Kong have been, and the fight has been just squashed by CCP, and they are not afraid to use force like any communist dictator will use. And we see that with the Muslim population in China. We see that with the freedom-loving Hong Kong people. And we know who's in with China, and that would be Hunter Biden, Joe Biden, the boss, the big man. And we just know that they are corrupt, as all corrupt can be. And it is truly something we need to speak out about. We had to listen to 4 years about a Russian collusion and a Russian conspiracy, which was all proven to be false, but nobody wants to talk about the Chinese connection with our current president. And it's truly something we need to fight about. But there's so many battles. And the first battle is election integrity. Because without election integrity, we're going to be like Hong Kong, and we're going to be like the Muslims in China with no voice.
Yeah, Chris, I've been speaking to my local rep here in Warminster, Megan Schroeder, and she's very nice. And they have been having hearings about the election. So just let you know that is ongoing thing.
Yeah, my understanding is they hold them every Thursday. And
yeah, and you can get them on online too.
Yes. So that is.
So not about the past election, but anything current that's going to be coming up. They want to get some election rules ironed out, and I did send you that one petition that one day.
Yeah. So we have that, and we need to work on cleaning up Act 77. It's not going to go away. We're stuck with a bad bill because our Republicans put it through. But it needs to be cleaned up. And, President Trump, mentioned each one of those key points about election integrity. So we need to speak to our state reps and say, hey, you guys are still in control in Harrisburg. Let's make something happen so that these mail-in ballots, we need to go back to absentee ballots. I mean, even Jimmy Carter says that mail-in ballots, just provide too much opportunity for corruption. And, it's not often when I'm agreeing with Jimmy Carter, but he goes to foreign third world countries, banana republic countries, and he sees how mail-in ballots just are open for corruption, for ballot harvesting, and it is something that we truly need our state representatives to work on, since they've put us into this mess with Act 77. It needs to be cleaned up. So with that, I'm probably going to start to wind down tonight's phone call. I'd like to try to keep it under 1 hour, just because everybody's time is very valuable, and I do appreciate everybody joining us tonight. Eddie, I appreciate all your comments. Thank you very much. And John Carver, being our guest tonight, thank you very much for telling us your story, telling us your concerns, and thank you for being supportive on these calls, because you have been joining us for the last few weeks. So I do want to thank you for everything you have helped us with. But please, everybody, make sure you check out bucksPAC.com. We have just wonderful resource on there that is so helpful, and it's very easy to send that link over to other people to have them join us on these Monday night phone calls, so we can get new people on these calls, get new thoughts on how we can help conservatives take back and make Bucks County great again. So thank you, everybody, for joining us tonight. And with that,
Chris, I have one question.
Hey, John, what's that one question?
Yeah. Is Meaning going to run again?
That would be up for Andy Mead to
I hope so.
speak about. and there are a lot of people who are supporting him to do that. The only thing I would say is, I'm not involved in that campaign, but he is doing a wonderful job building a wonderful grassroots effort to make that happen. I would encourage him to do it again. I initially said not to do it because my feeling was that President Trump would win the 2020 election, and in 2022, off-year election, Republicans, or the party holders tend to do bad in an off-year election. Well, the fact is that a Democrat is in the White House, and Brian Fitzpatrick deserves to lose his seat because he votes as a Democrat, and he deserves to step away because he said he would act as his brother did and only serve 6 years, three two-year terms. He would term limit himself. So he's the one that put as his first congressional bill was a term limit bill. So my feeling is he understands the concept of it if he wrote a bill, and that was his first congressional legislative bill that he sent in when he first was elected. So should Andy Meehan run? My feeling would be yes, he should. That is his decision to do that. Andy Meehan has a lot of energy, and if anybody can do it, Andy can do it. But it's his decision to do that. So that's my long answer.
Yeah. Well, he did pretty well in the primary last time.
Oh yes, he did. Yes. So that is something we'll work on. As we get other people to win the primary for this election, let's work on that first.
He would have done a lot better, and I think he could have won if the GOP headquarters had treated him fairly and not put out all those lies in that letter that they sent to all the committee people. I was talking to some at our meeting last Thursday at our endorsement meeting, and they said they would have supported Andy except for what they learned about him in that letter that Pat Poprick sent out. It's a disgrace.
Correct.
I agree.
Correct.
Thanks, so.
Correct. It's Jimmy. Correct. Can you hear me?
Did we lose Chris? I think we lost Chris again.
He probably dropped out again.
We can hear you, Jimmy. Go ahead.
Chris.
Chris is off the call. He must have got cut off.
Okay. Well, it's Jimmy Clendenin. I just want to say that if Brian does not run next year, Pat Poprick will handpick a replacement endorsed, the same way, and so that's the situation there. Pat Poprick would never allow a candidate to be endorsed who she did not pick out herself.
Jimmy, you are correct.
That's all I have to say. Over.
No, very good, Jimmy, and that truly is what will probably happen. And yes, I did get cut off a second time. So thank you, Jimmy and Eddie, for following through and picking up the baton after it got dropped again. So thank you very much.
Excuse me, I have a question that's not related to Brian Fitzpatrick. My question is anyone challenging Matt Weintraub for district attorney this November?
Carlos, I do not believe so. I've not heard it. I'm sure the one reason would be he's the only Republican who is in a row office in Doylestown.
Yeah.
So
the only reason why I question it because I have articles that he has written, and of course, one of my main concerns is Second Amendment and gun rights. And basically, he has basically shown that he's really, and I've challenged him at a meeting also. He seems to be in tune with the Moms Demand Action and some of the really extreme gun types of gun laws that they advocate. But anyhow, so that's the only reason why I brought it up. But okay. But you've answered my question.
My understanding, the only person who actually is having any kind of primary challenges, like I said, the DA race probably does not have a challenger at all, because that's the only one that's held by a Republican. Where the other races, the endorsed candidate for controller has two candidates running or collecting signatures to be on the petition or to be on the ballot, and that would be for the controller's race, and that would be Pamela Lee Von Blunk is the endorsed candidate, which is why we still continue to do that. But as you said, that will probably continue even for the congressional seat next year. And two unendorsed candidates would be Andy Warren, and
he's running again, huh?
Yes, he is. And Joe, and if Dale's still on the phone, what is Joe's last name? I know it starts with an H.
Hogan.
I keep wanting to call him Huffle, and I know it's not Huffle. Okay, Hogan. I'll try to remember that. And Gail, is he collecting enough signatures to be able to be on the race?
I answered for her. This is Ilka, and I think he's doing okay with signatures.
Good.
Can I just give you some information I learned yesterday about Pamela Lee Van Blunk?
Please do.
I guess I asked her, is there any way I can find any Republican donations? She was at the Warrington meet and greet yesterday, and there are none, and she admitted to that. She said if there are any, they're in her husband's name. So, so thank you for bringing that to my attention.
Yes, that was a story that bucksPAC broke about 2 weeks ago, was the fact that Pamela Lee Blunk, when she worked in a law office during the President Obama years, that she personally donated to President Obama, and she personally donated to Act Blue. Now, my understanding is her story is that she's learned and she has walked away from the Democratic Party, which is wonderful. We want to encourage people to walk away from the Democratic Party. My own personal feeling is that if she donated that much money to President Obama and to Act Blue, and as you just said, she can't account for any support of any Republicans since that time, I think she needs to serve a little bit of repentance time. She needs to repent a little bit and maybe work in the field a little bit and help Republicans win. So, and we do have some candidates running against her, and that would be Joe Hogan. I'll try to remember Joe Hogan's name now, and Andy Warren as they run against her. And, of course, the biggest problem we have now is that if we have two grassroots effort candidates running against an endorsed candidate in the primary, they're probably going to cancel each other's votes out. So that's hopefully is something that won't happen, and hopefully we can get a conservative Republican in there. So that's our bucksPAC.com Monday night conference call for tonight, March 1st. Thank you very much for everybody joining us. Politics seems like it never ends, so we'll be back here next Monday night. Hopefully I'll get a chance to reach out to each and every one of you this week. I have a little bit more open calendar this week. So I'm looking forward to talking to everybody one-on-one because I enjoy that very much. And thank you very much for everybody being on the call tonight. So good night, everybody.
Thanks, Chris.
Good night.
All right.
Good night. Thanks.